Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Hudson Plan Commission meeting of Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. Could we have the roll call? Oops, I got to start this first. How do we know if it's working? Hang on a second. I don't see any lights come on. Were we supposed to put this battery in it?
No, that's an extra one. There's a button on the back. It's for power.
Yeah.
It should be either
Oh, okay.
on.
We have to do that first. There it is. There it is. It says hello. Now let's click it twice. Okay, it's going. Thank you. Okay. Call to order the meeting of July 21st, 2021. Roll call, please.
Chair Meiser,
Here.
Roderick Anderson,
Present.
Jared Bachman, Rob Howard,
Here.
Tom Mitchell, Dean Schneider, Mary Wecken,
Here.
We have a quorum, 4 of 7. So, first order of business, approval of the meeting minutes of May 19th. I move approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any comments or additions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the meeting minutes of May 19th, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Next item, concept plan for a possible 4-lot minor subdivision at 900 6th Street North. Pin 161, 1063, 10000, discussion only. Applicant name, Dr. Robert Bardill. If you'd like to go up to the podium and just say for the folks at home or whoever, what you're, sure. What you're requesting.
Good evening, I'm Peter Gartman with Real Land Surveying out of Eau Claire. We're requesting to do a PUD in this commercial area. I know there was talk about condominiums, but I think this is better suited for a commercial PUD. We do it all the time in different municipalities, so basically what the city allows is for easements to access the property. Instead of having frontage onto the city streets, it's more of a strip mall type development without the buildings being connected. That's what we'd like to ask for today. So I'd like a little discussion on that and see what your thoughts are.
What they're asking for, does this land qualify for that?
Well, if you were,
One thing I was wondering if the village actually allowed for this within their
That's what
ordinance.
we're asking the attorney right now.
well, the PUDs are allowed, but, per the Cedar Court memo, there's a 4-acre minimum on those, which you don't meet, I don't believe.
You are correct.
So to go that route, there'd have to be a variance granted to allow you to get into that zoning. Once you got past that, then I agree a PUD would be a possibility for this.
Okay.
That's sort of, the purpose of that is to allow flexibility in terms of setbacks and, different restrictions. And what happens is that the applicant and the village would agree upon, an implementation plan as to what the entire property will be developed as under these new, zoning rules. And then that would really be the zoning designation for this property at that point.
Would it be more restrictive initially than a condominium? What?
Well, it provides flexibility. Once you get into the PUD, you come up with a plan that works for both the village and the developer, and there's give and take. You negotiate, basically. It really makes for an open slate, so you can come up with hopefully the best plan for both parties at that point. The condominium really is similar to that. It's a different form of subdividing. In the condominium situation, the different parties wouldn't own the lot and the ground around the lot like a traditional, piece of property. They would own, in this case, probably their building pad, and then build their building. I don't know what you envision, but that's probably what you'd do. Sort of like some of the townhouse situations that you have. And then all the areas surrounding those would be common areas, either of a limited type or of a, true common area type where everyone would share access, the access road and the parking and the maintenance of those areas, so. It's different ways to go,
Paul said it correctly. What we'd do is, in a condominium, we'd do, your units is what it would be, because again, it's under one ownership. It's not a subdivision. Condominium is not a subdivision, it's a condominium. And then you would own the units, which is the land underneath where the building would sit. I'd probably say 10, 50 feet around the perimeter of where the building would sit, give them the pad. We'd have limited common area, which would be basically the parking stalls in front of the building. And then common area would be everything else around it, the ponds, and then some additional parking that could be shared amongst the condominium. The only difference between that and the PUD is nothing. It's just the different way you're going to sell it and how you're going to manage it. I believe the PUD is a much better way to go because we can handle the common portion with easements and within a covenant, like a subdivision, with the covenants to handle that, the ingress, egress, the parking, the maintenance of the parking areas. Each person would be responsible for their buildings and everything else, and they could even take care of their own lawns and everything else and maintain that. It all depends on how we would set up the covenant, so.
My understanding, what you just said then, Paul, was the disadvantage to the applicant is they'd have to get the zoning variance to get a PUD.
Yeah, I mean, based on Cedar Corp, I guess I didn't check that before the meeting, but this says you need 4 acres to even consider doing a PUD.
I just think this is a great business park. I think it'd bring in a lot of revenue in tax base. And it's just a lot cleaner if people own their own lots. It's a lot easier to get funding. Condominiums are really tough to get funding for. So that's one of the reasons why I'd rather lean towards the PUD.
If they wanted to pursue that path, what's the next step they would have to take with the zoning variance?
Yeah, we would have to look to see what would be required to get them into the PUD classification. And I guess there'd be a question as to why the 4-acre minimum was set at some point. It'd be interesting to see.
Because it was intended for the oldest part of town and the shop yards.
Oh, okay. There we go. That's always good to have the history as to why these things happen.
And because the way the lots are at the older part of town, they don't meet today's zoning code.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's why a PUD would be for down there, because it would grant that flexibility with how old
Yep.
the village is in that section.
And it's not uncommon to see a minimum size to do PUDs.
Correct. And I think Bob was talking about having the buildings be brick-faced and so there'd be some architectural standards that would go along with it, so the buildings would commonly look alike, and then things like that. So it would be a really nice business park. I think it'd be a great addition to the village, and I think it would be it'd look very nice too.
So are you thinking office as opposed to retail?
That was something that Bob would have to think about.
Well, it was my intention, just to control what goes up next to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so if we could do it in a fashion that looks nice for the village and for my building that's will be next to it, that's sold, that was the idea. I wanted to have control of that with covenants and, easements set such a way that everybody, it's fair, that what portion they have to take care of and stuff like this. But if I just sell it, break it down into 4 lots and sell it, and I have no control over it,
Yeah.
what goes in there.
So are these going to be 2-story structures, 3-story
Most likely.
structures?
Did you guys get the plan?
We just have this.
Yeah. I had
We got this.
that one, okay, yeah. You know my building is.
It's your building.
Yeah.
Twice.
There'd probably be 2 of those
Yeah.
on the east side there, and then in the front, it's hard to say what would happen there. We just don't know,
Correct.
But again, we wouldn't want anything that could add to the buildings that we're put in there. I had a couple people that were interested in building there, and they were asking me the question, you know, how much would I charge for a lot? I said, well, it depends on what it's gonna cost me, and I need to know all these things before I can consider doing anything. But they would be good tenants and owners in this case. So the idea was just to do it as simple as we could and control what happens to the lot, you know?
If you were just talking the two and it was on the road and you had access, it'd be a lot simpler, but you don't.
No. it
That's
comes
what,
off.
that's the complicating
We'd have to
factor.
have- We'd have to have easements.
What is the, can you do a flag lot in the village?
Yeah, you can do a flag lot.
Ken,
I mean, we could easily take lot 3 and extend the lot line all the way to the highway. That'd give it frontage. Lot 4 would have the
To
remaining.
highway, you have to get DOT approval for
Yeah.
that one.
No, we wouldn't have access. We'd do it through an easement, but that would still allow for
No.
frontage.
So you're talking about the easement through Lot 4 to Lot 3 from the highway?
No.
No, we would keep the same configuration, but we'd extend the lot line between 2 and 3 all the way through Lot 4 to the highway. So then Lot 3 would have frontage. And then we could, on
Yeah,
the
but-
east side of Lot 1, we could do, grant a flag off of Lot 1 to give frontage out of Cratley.
They may have frontage if you do that, but you're gonna have to get approval from the DOT to have access.
We wouldn't use access there. We would access with the same configuration we have.
Well, the whole point of lots abutting a street is for access.
no.
Okay. He does have an easement off of Highway 35 on that corner to access that. So that might be a possibility. So we do have some options.
Sharing the access that's already there. I thought the access was owned by your neighbor to the north.
Actually, he owns the access.
I do. But I'm not sure if if the state would allow that.
Yeah.
It's meant to be access for, you
Excuse me,
know,
sir.
residential.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, can you go up to the podium if you're going to be talking? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I thought his voice was deep enough.
So I don't know if that would be allowed or not with the,
It'd
with
be
the
tough.
state, you know, what I mean, it wasn't my intention, but it is possible that now that everything is done in the village, they might allow it, you know, it wasn't my intention to even ask, you know, so,
Of course, the DOT just is finishing up their.
yeah, and they're not gonna do
They want to
anything.
probably go back and review it.
Yeah, but there's
month
nothing
later.
gonna happen, I don't think, on highway in front there in the future at all. Nothing's gonna happen. So,
That's the reason why we're here to talk, to try and
Yeah.
get some options, what we can do and what we can't do. Again, I'd rather do the PUD with the layout we have and easements, and it makes things a lot cleaner.
What's your plan for the square footage of the two buildings? Or three buildings, the three new ones?
How large are the buildings gonna be?
she's talking about this section right here, I think.
I
Lot
think
2,
she's
3,
actually
and
the square footage
4.
of the buildings.
Lot 2?
Lot 2 and 3 look like they would be about the same size. What were
No,
you,
Lot 2 is a little bit smaller, because that, to allow for the
Okay.
circling there.
but that's something else. If it's larger than 1,400 square feet, you need a variance because with the CU, or C2 zoning classification, you can only have up to 1,400 feet or 1,500 feet.
Or the building itself.
The footprint of the building.
How big is your building?
6,500?
Yeah, but this was done after, I mean, your building was done before the code was amended, I believe. But you were in 92,
Is it 14,000 or 1,400?
1,500, something like that. It's in 98.
Oh, that's awful
98.
small building.
Yeah, that's a
Under-
pretty small building.
The house is bigger than that.
Retail shops not to exceed 1,500 square feet or something like that. I could have misread that, but
C2.
we're on the right-hand
But if the
page.
footprint's 15,000, it would have to be bigger than 1,400.
Well, yeah, I know.
I mean, that doesn't,
There was something I remember, I think what you're talking about is, because of the zoning, it can't be retail, anything greater than 1,400 square
Right,
feet.
there's certain businesses, yeah, that can't be greater than
Right,
1,400 or
and-
1,500 square feet.
And so they'd have
There's
to,
a bunch of them there.
you can't
plus-
have a business there that's just,
And it-
retail only, that's bigger than 1,400 square feet. And that would be up to the size that they put in. I wasn't intended to be retail, but a lot of businesses will do whatever, and then they'll also sell a little this or that, but or it's like a beauty salon or whatever. They don't have, it's not all retail, So that's what I think they were after when they did that, was to limit that in the zoning that we have, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So these proposed buildings
Mhm.
are gonna just contain one commercial per building or multiple commercial per building?
Would there be one owner, and they could, kind of like mine, they could own the upper level, and then the lower level, they could rent it out or whatever, that's up to them.
And these lots are and designated at 15, like lot 2 is 15,020 square feet. Is that the footprint or a double, a two-story
The lot?
square footage?
The
No,
square footage-
no,
The square footage is for the whole lot.
is the lot,
itself.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
you don't have the areas, yeah, that's the lot, right, okay.
Right.
I was trying to figure out what the footprint of the building was.
Have you done
in
any
square
footprint analyses for the building and parking ratios?
How big
Yeah.
is your building?
There's plenty of room to get the parking.
Yeah, we did that.
I figured that out relative to
Right.
the square footage, There's not a problem that way, especially if we use some of the 50-foot setback from the state. I mean, we could have more parking than you'd ever need.
Well, I don't think you can park in the setback.
Huh?
I'm not sure you can park in the state setback.
No, that's just building setbacks, not parking. You can have
Sure.
blacktop right up to
Yeah,
the line,
okay.
but, again, it's gotta look good,
Is there topography is this climbing up?
It does climb up, yes.
Yep,
So these would be stepping uphill.
yep,
Yours is a lookout or walkout on the lower level, correct?
yep, there's no elevator.
These would
Which
these
is-
do the same thing, you
Yeah.
think? I mean, I don't know the
Yeah, it would
topography
be-
that well.
You'd
It would
just,
step up.
yeah,
Each building would go up a little bit, and then you'd have the walkout below,
yeah,
which allows for nice frontage.
yeah. Handicap access and stuff to the lower levels, you don't have to go through steps and,
Yeah.
which is nicer. And if they wanted to do a building with an elevator, they could, but then that gets pretty pricey,
What's the effect on these existing homes right here as far as when you're gonna clear cut? Will that be right to the line? Or is there
There's trees there
still-
now.
Will those still be
Fine.
maintained like a buffer between
It
existing?
looks like your parking line will take out all those trees.
Does
No,
that go all
that's-
the way to the edge of over there?
Yeah, it's,
We'll take
if
it.
I'm looking at the aerial right now, it's gonna go
Well,
right
you-
through all those
You can
trees.
pass that down to them.
Mine, I have well, actually, I got pine trees between there, that's actually put on those lots, because I developed that land there on Crown Court. I designed it with the idea that I have trees there.
Right, well,
Already
you did a
planted
good
a
job.
buffer.
Yes,
Do that for
I
yourself.
built it already, I put all those trees in.
Yeah, but now there's homes there north of you at that line.
North of it,
Just
that's
two existing homes?
nothing, no,
East.
it's all.
North of that lot and east of your lot line
Yeah.
are homes right up to your lot line. I mean,
Yeah, that's Crown Court,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking at it.
right.
it's
So
just-
those trees that are now their backyard would be gone. So you'd be taking those out, based on this.
Well, there
plan.
should be 10 feet there.
Well,
you
that's
know,
all there
from
is.
from where the parking is
There's no
now.
trees
Yeah.
left, though. There'd be no
Yeah.
trees. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Well,
these trees
we
would
wouldn't
be
take
gone.
the
These
trees that I
trees-
put in down.
These trees
would
would
leave
be
them.
continuously, that whole piece of real estate, as you've drawn it,
Mhm.
is an extension of your parking lot.
Yeah.
Correct.
Those trees would be gone.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Right, above
Yes.
that.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sure. Yes. Yeah, I thought you were talking
Just want to be
about.
sure you understand
I would leave as,
the
yeah,
ramifications.
no, the idea is just like when I developed that Crown Court, is to keep trees in there, so between the houses and my parking, that was obvious that we did that.
Well, it's obvious you're going to not do it now.
There'll still be trees.
Yeah, no, I put those trees in on,
Those trees will stay there, but the trees
No.
north of your property will be gone, that are
yeah,
immediately
where
west
this
of the
parking is, just
residence
like it
there.
is, we took the trees down where my parking lot is now. Those all went.
Yep. Yeah.
No real change in the plan with the idea of having a little time, a little buffer in there. But yeah, probably the one at the far end there, there could be some trees, but there's still trees in between there too, that's on their lots. Because when I developed that, we kind of had everything set where the houses were gonna go, and we knew at some point this would eventually happen. This was planned out since '94, type stuff, and,
The property lines on it.
but,
I thought there were more houses right there, but that's just
There's
those
just
two.
those two houses. There's just two houses there that are.
yeah. There's two houses there, yeah. And I own the lot that's right next to the one on my building, right there yet, so.
Which,
There's a lot on Crown Court I haven't sold yet.
okay.
So,
Right.
And that lot's 149,000 square feet that you're just referred to, that you own right next to.
No, that was divided, that whole piece.
oh,
was
that's an
divided
old
into
one,
Crown Court.
yeah. That's all been developed,
Right.
yeah,
Cul-de-sac and lots in there.
yeah. I think it's about a half an acre, a little bit bigger.
Mary, did you still have a question about that easement? on
Well,
that
the
old-
driveway easement and the way the access road is right, or the access drive, whatever, is right, pretty much on the property line. I mean, no clearance, it doesn't look like there's any buffer there.
We
And I
could
know
slide
you're,
that in. I mean, this is just a conceptual thing. Everybody
think-
would have to come in.
No, we're trying to identify any future,
I'm
minefields
just
for
trying
you.
Oh,
to
you're
give
talking
you
about
some
this-
ideas.
Yeah, yep, that's not a problem.
The house to the north. You're talking about the lot to the north. Is that what you're talking about?
She's talking
Well,
about,
Vegas are the lots.
Easement over to Jane's house, yeah.
Jane's is the lot to the north,
Yeah.
And that driveway is on your property.
yes.
So how will that change? Or she'll still have the easement to,
Yep.
Use it all.
The owner of lot 3 or 4 or whatever, that easement will be passed on as long as it doesn't get in the way of being able to build.
And there's-
Otherwise, she's not gonna lose her access to the in and out of there.
Well,
Okay.
that's gonna change.
she has her own driveway besides, or is that the
Well, it's
easement?
about half of it, I would say.
Oh,
It's kind of split down the middle there. So,
and then we could put a little turnaround at the end of each one of these lanes and not have that loop part. If that's something more the village would be more receptive to, it was just nice to have that.
Well, it's not a little turnaround, it's a
Well,
fire
the
truck
big-
turnaround.
picture fire engines, yeah.
It's a 90-foot radius.
Like,
You know,
yeah,
it's gonna be
again,
a big
that's
honking, it's a
very-
big
I
honk in
mean-
the cul-de-sac is what it is.
Yeah.
We would have to talk to them, but it's only, 300 feet. Again, you gotta remember, they can back into 300 feet, they don't need to,
Yeah,
you'd
they
have
can
to talk to
use-
the fire department and see if that's
Your
acceptable.
building's burning, you don't want them backing in, you want them driving in fast.
Yeah, but they
It's
could
a
drive
football
in
field.
and then back out. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, you don't have to back up, it's not like it's 1,500 feet.
True,
It's not that very far.
right.
yeah.
Well, your biggest hurdle is getting a variance.
Is what part?
Getting a variance, you're gonna have
If
to
you want to go
go
to PUD route.
to zoning appeals and get a variance and,
Mm-hmm. I don't, it's up to you.
I think it's worth a shot, I mean,
Yeah.
they turn, we can still go condominium route.
Sure.
I
but
just
you're
think it's
gonna
worth it.
have to come up with a better plan than this. It's gonna
More
have to be more
details?
detailed.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to apply for a variance, it has to be, number one, you don't meet the lot requirement size, the parcel size. Number two, you've got to look at setbacks on everything and sizes of buildings and heights of buildings and all sorts of things. So it would have to be a very detailed plan to put in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I guess it comes down to whatever's works, I guess.
We could use your building for the building elevations, that one for that. I think we could do it.
And I don't know, I mean, you have to have a very good reason why this Board of Zoning Appeals would even look at this with it being half
think
the
the question-
size of the required,
Yeah, the question is there hardship
Right.
yeah,
for
So-
you?
yeah.
Well,
I mean, are you demonstrating hardship?
Yeah, I've been through that before.
Yeah.
I guess what we look at it as is this something acceptable and something that the village could foresee that this would be a good idea or not? I mean, that's why we're here. And if not, maybe we should just go to the condominium route. Sometimes it's,
We're not the zoning board.
I understand that, but we're looking at, you guys are the plan commission, and you do recommend, I'm sure, to the village board, correct?
If it's within our code limit, parameters, you're not.
Right.
What you're asking for is not.
It would have to be, yeah.
There is no hardship here, so
Yeah.
the variance would, I don't see how we can get a variance for it.
Do you see the PUD being a better deal for the tenants, for the buyers?
I think it's a better deal for the village,
Because,
just because it's lot owned and not unit owned.
I think you could debate the other side too, because if it's a single ownership and a PUD, I mean, a single ownership and condominium, the buildings are owned, but the real estate, the land is all under one ownership. So all the streetscapes, the sidewalks, the snow plowing, is, and even though you can write it into your covenants,
Yeah.
it's a clearer path to control, I think. From the, from the.
Each one has its pluses and minuses. I've just been doing this for the last 30 years, and I know that PUDs work out a lot better than condominiums. There's all kinds of these things where there's cross easements and everybody shares the parking lots and everybody, it's just common, it's very common.
But those are large, they can be larger developments. I mean, there's,
They can be smaller. We've done a lot of little ones that way. Again, I think we can probably make this work with the code if we rearrange a few things, which we might look at. Like I said, I think we can take lot 3 out to here and do a flag here, and we can rearrange this to where everyone has frontage.
I might think too that if you begin to think about the buffer that's there between the two residences that exist to your east, if you can accommodate that in a way by shifting some of the two new buildings, they don't have to be, you can offset them and stagger them down the hill a little bit towards Highway 35.
Yeah.
If there's real estate to do that, I'm not exactly sure
Planned
Which
development
one?
district.
what that
Probably
might do to the rectangular building and how that fits in your
Yeah.
whole scenario.
I think there's things we can do.
read about it, see what they're talking about.
Start staggering it over.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of,
Look
Might
nice
give it
coming
a
up the
better,
highway.
it might be a better
There's a little
plan
flexibility there.
anyway, just
Yeah.
visually.
I have no idea. It's whatever.
Because sometimes, in
Yeah.
that kind of, if you're, when I'm hearing you saying it's almost cookie cutter, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to come with that approach, it might be better to stagger them and give you some, variation of your sight line. Because otherwise, it's kind of like
Again, this was just
1965 all over again.
conceptual, and thank you for those ideas. I mean, that's the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
Get more ideas, figure out what we can and can't do.
But I mean, our role isn't to decide which is better for you
Yeah.
in conflict with the
Our ordinance.
requirements of our ordinance. I mean, we cannot, we can't make that decision because that's not our role.
But would you say that if there was no 4-acre minimum, if there was no variance required, would it really matter to us as a plan commission which of the technical things it is? With the picture being all the same, the building's the same size, and
It may not, because
I wouldn't
we wouldn't
think.
have the criteria. We
Yeah.
wouldn't have that zoning, or that ordinance in our,
but then all we do though is presented now, okay? If you want it to go that way, you need to talk to the variance people, that ain't us.
Right.
But as far as your question to us is, what do you think of the concept? I mean, I like the
Right.
concept.
Yeah.
I like the concept except for the impact it has on those two neighbors to your east.
Unfortunately, no matter what we're gonna do, we're gonna have impact on them.
Yes, you will.
This could be remedied also.
But if you can minimize that to some degree, mitigate it a little bit, right?
After the fact, it could be, remedied and rebuffered. Trees go, spruce trees grow pretty fast.
Right.
Yeah,
That's-
but not with 10 feet. I mean, And it's usually the responsibility of the landowner to, I mean, it's hard to have much say on what happens that's not on your own property.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is what happens all over. People
It's been
complain
zoned.
about the things that are happening because they don't own the property. And then they,
And
you
it's
know.
been zone commercial for,
Yeah.
you know,
So,
Time.
since I bought it in
It's not-
94, I think it was,
I mean, I'm just,
something like that.
if you have room to do it, you know,
Right.
it might not hurt.
We're trying to definitely do it where it looks good,
Yeah.
that's for
I
sure.
don't know, and have you done like drainage calculations or anything like that for the water retention or
No.
any of that? You haven't gotten anywhere near that yet.
We haven't, this is about as far as we got. Again, we're just trying to get some feel for
Yep.
Yeah.
what your opinions are, condominiums versus PUDs and what was allowed, what's not allowed. It's different things like that. Are you guys open to, you know, easements and like a business type park, but, you know, where everything's maintained by the, you know, by the group?
And did you see the responses from our engineer and our,
I did not.
oh, okay, well, we'll give you a copy of
That'd
it.
be nice.
But basically, he says 4 acre minimum, and therefore, a condo plat may be the best option for you. That's
That
basically
Kevin?
that's basically what he says.
Is that Kevin?
Yeah,
That's
about-
Pat
Yeah.
Bielfus. So it's Cedar
Well, it's
Court.
Patrick, but yeah, it's probably Kevin.
Patrick? Oh.
Cedar Court.
And then the
And,
building
uh,
inspector says the same thing. He reviewed it, and maybe the condo plat be because the lots don't have access to a public road. So same thing, really.
Which might be the easiest way,
That might be the easiest way.
right?
I'm gonna try and rearrange the lots and see, and maybe we'll talk to the DOT.
Do you,
Another thing you should keep in mind with your plans is the requirement for number of parking stalls per.
yeah, you would
what is
definitely
it,
have to.
200 square feet of
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
space.
gonna have to, they're
Right.
gonna have to do that
You do.
math depending on how big a building they're gonna
Right.
build there. Yeah.
And that
I mean, it has to be aggregate,
Here.
you know, I mean,
My
like
next
a lot of
question
parking
would be
stalls.
is, if we just came with a CSM and no plan, and we met all the requirements of the commercial, based on the lot configuration, access, and, size,
setbacks, everything.
setbacks to what? We don't have no plan. We're just doing a 4-lot CSM. I'm just asking, just throwing it out there. Would there be?
oh, just doing a
would there be
4-lot,
requirements?
just doing a 4-lot subdivision,
Yeah.
no plan, no layout, just,
Well,
A 4-lot CSM.
another
lot.
problem
Allow the
is,
people themselves to buy it and put their own, and they would have to deal with all the setbacks, the buildings, the parking. I mean,
You'd
that happens a
have-
lot
Yeah,
too.
you'd have the same problem with your 2 interior lots, whether they show building there or not.
I think we could do it.
you've got to have your minimum frontage and minimum depth for each lot, which this doesn't have right now.
Would take a look at the code and see what it allows for.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I would suggest. Take a look at the code for the PUD district, take a look at the code for the setbacks, just as straight lots.
Yeah,
You know, and,
let's see what we can do.
you know,
Like I said, I think we can rearrange this to where it would meet the code. And maybe we won't, we're just gonna look at some options, just basically, this is about what he wants, he envisions this type of a layout. How can we configure the lots, meet your code and your requirements?
Other question is, what kind of concerns do we usually have when people want to do something? And how does it impact the neighbors, and what's the traffic going to be? Well, I've seen the traffic out of your building, it isn't a whole lot. So triple that or double it, it isn't going to be a whole lot that I can see.
No. No commercial.
so I just have another kind of, this north driveway that's on your property, is that really, I mean, or is it are they gonna use this other driveway?
What's the date of that, Mary?
What's that?
Is that present?
That aerial, 2020.
Well, that's just your loop.
Yeah,
You'll
so
keep
what,
that.
so that's on your property?
Yeah,
This whole thing is on your property?
yeah.
But you weren't gonna
So
disturb
is
that,
that
right?
staying there?
You're not
You're
disturbing
not
not.
gonna you're not gonna.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know,
Well-
but, I
Well,
mean, I've
It
dealt
would be
with
nice
change.
to draw that on this.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Sure.
yep.
So,
Again, we haven't done anything more than just
She needs to have access to get off. her
Well, she can
property.
have access.
Yeah.
I mean, she can access.
That's kind of
That's
important.
her dri- that's
That's what I
her
was
street.
wondering, isn't
So she
that,
can-
I mean, the easement's on the
She'd be fine.
CSM.
Get your driveway off.
Yeah, whoever owns this lot.
92, so it must have been-
Like I said,
I mean, it's up to you,
Right.
I
right?
worked with her for
Oh,
since
yeah,
94, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be able to work it
Does
all
that
out.
driveway correspond to that easement, or is that two different things?
Two different things. I think.
Well, she has an easement, a driveway easement
Yes.
to be able to get to the, to get there, but
Yeah, I
it's
think what-
spelled out by an attorney.
what
you know,
he's
as
looking
to
at
when
is
the
this-
building gets to that point,
Oh,
then she
it's-
has
it is
This
documented
triangle
on
on
there
this
as
whole
an easement.
CSM
the easement,
here.
it's all done.
So that, I mean,
Come here and look at this one then. So lot 2 is what you've got
oh,
here.
that little triangle is there?
Yeah.
Oh, that little triangle's the easement.
Well, actually, that's an easement for her drain field.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which her driveway is on.
Until such time that building is maybe done there.
Her driveway is the drain field?
Can't have it.
and then what's she gonna do?
She can move hers this way if she wants, or she can,
Yeah.
if she wants to, you guys could annex it or whatever, and have her connect to the, city sewer. She doesn't want to do that. So, but,
And we're gonna
but
force
she
her.
has room to be able to go the other way. It's just, right now, it's been a lot less expensive for her by just using what she's had. It's older than we are.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't take it away from her.
Yeah.
It's on
Well,
there.
it's actually, no, it's spelled out in there that, yeah.
It is, from when you bought your land?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not,
Sewer
even though it
easement's
says driveway on there, it's
so
not
it says
driveway.
Still gotta
Driveway,
figure
yeah.
out how much drain is gonna
It says
come off.
driveway
There's
and
a-
sewer
the easement on the
easement.
driveway is
Gotta
just to
be-
be able to have
Well,
access, yeah.
Yeah,
to
but
get
I
to-
mean,
So
it,
she's got to have a way to get out.
No.
Yeah.
so there's a separate
So-
written easement agreement someplace?
I don't know what kind of discussion we're in.
I've got all that if you need to see it, but at this
Yeah.
point, just.
Well, you're gonna wanna look at that when you're laying this
Yeah.
out, because if there's
Yeah.
an actual easement that's on there, then you
Yeah.
know, that could impact your
Yeah.
site.
I mean, the information's here, you just need to
I've got all that.
delineate.
Unless he has the document.
There's information
that
on
says
here
that
even
Because
that,
you can get rid of it.
Negates the
Yeah,
easement.
again, it
And
wasn't,
again,
it wasn't
Right.
intended to be
Developed
a final document or nothing, it was just,
well, I'm not saying it needs to be final. It's-
What's
There's
that?
a lot of information that is not
Can have it,
being
so
shown.
I have no problem with that. That was the same thing up here. We had a well easement, and when this was developed, the person who bought this lot had to accept the easement, and
Yeah.
eventually the well went, didn't work, and then so she moved, had to pay for filling
well.
it, and it's all laid out exactly whose responsibility is what.
Well,
So, and it's the same thing with all the other part, So, but either way, she's always gonna have access to get out of
yeah,
her.
but you're gonna wanna look at that, because it
Yep.
may impact your site plan, your green space
Oh,
and
sure.
landscaping and all that.
Yeah,
Or your flag lots, or whatever you wanna do
Right.
up there, so.
yeah, well, I'll be sure to show him who lays it out as to whatever, that's why the discussions tonight,
Mhm.
and make it all work.
I think, and our next discussion is to talk to the DOT and see if we can utilize that access, which is gonna be one of the things. And we'll see what we can do and see how we can fit this in and make it work.
Any other questions, comments?
We have tons of frontage, we just,
Do you have anything else for us?
nope, it was just an informal meeting to get some ideas and get a feel for if this type of layout is acceptable in the village, and if you guys would find this acceptable. That was it. To have a business park.
You got a maybe, I guess.
That's all it was. I've come to these things before and spent a ton of money to get flatly turned down. So that's the reason why we didn't want to get too far into it.
Yeah. And I really don't know what else you'd want to put in there. You know what I mean?
No, I won't.
But what would the village actually prefer,
Like Mary, like we've talked about before, that's the right side of the highway to build stuff on, right?
Yeah.
We've had these discussions too. Yeah.
Well, it's already zone commercial,
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
yeah.
Quick Trip's already taken somewhere else.
If there's nothing else,
Thank you.
there's nothing else, thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you. Yeah.
You're dismissed. Okay, item number 5. We have a,
You want me to explain this one?
yes, please, public hearing.
Oh, we
Possibly.
gotta do the public hearing, yeah.
But you can explain it first and then we'll go to public.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason this came to light
Yeah.
is that the Public Works Committee came up with the idea of getting goats to
Tom
eat
Brady's
the
moving
buckthorn in the parks. And in order to secure the goats to stay in the park, you have to use an electric fence. It's the most practical way to do it.
Yep.
And the code prohibits that in the village. So the proposal is just to make a small tweak in the code that allows electric or barbed wire if the board approves, instead of just a flat prohibition.
Okay.
When the code was written, the goat thing wasn't a
Yeah.
thing.
It was not a
Probably the best thing, though.
No, but before the
Probably.
code was written, there was a lot of farmland here, and there was barbed wire.
There was
Yeah.
barbed wire.
And there's still
electric
barbed
fence-
wire.
and electrified fences.
Yeah.
There's still barbed wire in the village.
So it just provides some flexibility in some of these unique circumstances,
Yes.
one being goats.
So we have no live audience, but we will go into, I'll ask for a motion to go into public hearing to discuss this. May I have a motion?
Move to go into public hearing?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in public hearing at 7:43, and somebody comes in the next minute.
I move we go out of public hearing. You have to wait a minute?
I usually do, just for the minutes. We don't want to railroad anything here, but we do have no
one's here.
people present, and nobody seems to be coming. I will accept your motion. Is there a
I'll second that we go.
Okay, all in favor of coming out of public hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are out of public hearing at 7:44.
Can you tell me who did the motion and the second?
Motion second.
Second.
Thank
A
you.
minute I will never retrieve.
Thank you. What does the board want the plan commission to do on this? Just recommend?
Recommend. Yep.
Okay,
I move recommendation.
okay. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
You second. More discussion. And this doesn't necessarily mean temporary, it's just if the village board says you can have it, you can have it.
You can have it. Yeah,
And
it
then
could
they would
be-
say when to take it
Yeah,
down.
it could be temporary, it could be permanent.
Okay.
It just provides flexibility, because right now it's just a no.
Any other comments, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of recommending this ordinance change to the village board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. Thank you. Just gotta find my agenda. Here we go. Routine business. I guess we don't have any.
sounds
Gene's
rude.
not
That
here,
sounds-
so I don't know
that
how we're
sounds-
ever gonna adjourn.
That sounds routine.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:45. Thank you all.
Thank you.